Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Al. We got the wild card round on Draftkings. 4 games, 1 slate. We got a whole lot of prize money out there to be won. A $1.5 million tournament. We got a whole bunch of $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 tournaments out there that we have to try to go get the top spot in. It is only 4 games. It is the playoffs. There's a lot of tough matchups, a lot of lower totals on this slate than you may be used to. The value is going to be tough to find. We know where some of the volume is going to come from some of these players, and you're going to have to be willing to break the rules a little bit from what you're used to in a full slate of games versus playing a 4-game slate. Short slate football is a little bit different. Having 2 running backs from the same game is way more viable in a playoff slate with only 8 games and 8 total quarterbacks, 8 starting running backs. Some teams go running back by committee. That kind of crosses them off a little bit unless the pricing is where we want it. My issue is that this is a very defensive, very slow-paced, very low-scoring, potentially, slate with 2 games that have the offensive firepower to probably shoot out, with the other 2 games being much less likely to turn into shootouts. So we're going to have to try and cobble together a lineup. And again, it's Monday. Everybody in the NFL is hurt at this point in the season. But there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. Players that are injured are not going to play this weekend. Players that are that come into the game hurt, they got some fantastic drugs at the NFL level that let these guys play through anything that's not structural damage so that they don't feel the pain on game day. Those guys that are just hurt are going to play, and they're going to play as hard as they possibly can. The guys who are injured aren't, and we're going to find out throughout the week which guys are, the difference between the hurt guys and the injured guys, because there's a lot of players in this slate with that big red Q next to their name on DraftKings. So stay tuned. Pay attention after New Year's to everything that comes down the pipe in terms of practice reports, in terms of news. Follow the right sources on Twitter. You know who they are, Schefter, Rap Sheet, all those sorts of guys do the best job at reporting, or whether you follow sites that like RotoWorld or whatever that kind of aggregate all the data that they can from all the beat writers and put out the information in one polished bit of information is fine for you to digest that. But this slate will be defined by which players play and which players don't, because it's a tough slate. Just is. 4 games. Indy Houston, the highest total game on the weekend, with a game total of 47.5 right now. Seattle Dallas behind it with about a 44. The other 2 games, Chargers Baltimore and Philly Chicago, all defensive shootouts. 41 totals there. Both home teams like to bleed the clock. Baltimore right now with Lamar Jackson out there runs the most of any team in the league with like 65 to 35 run pass mix. They just hog the ball on offense. They don't let the opposing teams get off as many plays as they normally do. So volume for players on the Chargers is down against Baltimore from what it would be against anybody else, where they play up in pace. Indy plays very fast. Houston plays very fast. So we're going to probably end up with a lineup that focuses on players from those first 2 games with maybe a sprinkle from those last couple. Also, the Chicago Bears are having some injury issues at wideout, as you can see here, with Allen Robinson. Did not play week 17. He was inactive. He's coming off of an injury. We have Taylor Gabriel, who got injured in that game as well in week 17. We have Miller, also injured. We're going to have to really pay attention, because if you're going to play somebody against Philadelphia, we tend to like to go focus on the players that are going to be playing on the outside. Pass catchers are really where you attack this Philly defense more than the interior, but the running backs for Chicago are a little bit lower priced. Interesting plays at home in the playoffs as well. So, starting with quarterback, as usual, we have Deshaun Watson, who against Indy has a 30-point upside. His counterpart in this game, Andrew Luck, also 30-point upside, but they're the 2 highest priced quarterbacks on the slate, rightfully so, but not up around the 7K range. 6,700 is quite expensive, but Trubisky in Chicago against Philly, 6,200. I like Trubisky, but I think the price as the 3rd highest priced quarterback on the slate is tough. Prescott down at 5,500 I find very interesting, although I am going to have a lot of shares of Ezekiel Elliott this weekend, and most likely will be in this lineup as well. Prescott, though, not independent from Ezekiel Elliott with as involved in the pass game as Zeke Elliott is. You can play both in the same lineup. Russ Wilson at 5,700. I love the upside because he can throw multiple touchdowns, and we've seen it. Most weeks this season have ended with Russ Wilson getting a 2 or greater in the touchdown column than games where he's had 1 or less. But they don't want to throw the ball. They want to play sluggo. They want to run the ball. They want to play bully ball, and they don't want to throw the ball a ton with Russ Wilson. 21 attempts against Arizona, 29 against KC, 31 against, they just don't throw it 40, 45 times, very few times during the year. But because of his ridiculous efficiency this year, he's ended up with a lot of touchdowns. So if you want to pay down at quarterback, I'm fine with that. I personally want to have Andrew Luck or Deshaun Watson. I'm fine with Watson, but I'm going to start with Andrew Luck just because it's a little bit easier for me to build the lineup that I want. I really want to have Ezekiel Elliott because he's the highest volume back on this slate and in the league. Always going to have high touchdown expectation. Always involved in the passing game, setting career highs in receptions and targets this season versus the other years of his career. What we're talking about, like a 15-point floor, 23-point average, 35-point possible with no touchdowns this game against Philly. 28 carries, 113 yards, 12-13 for 79 yards, 34 points without getting himself into the end zone. He is the highest touchdown producer on the Dallas Cowboys as well. As far as the other running backs, Marlon Mack is worth a flyer, but you can't expect him to catch balls. You just can't. Right? That's not his role in this team. Nyheim Hines, more of the pass catching back. The price for Mack being a ground and pound running back at $6K, not terrible, but Chris Carson's volume can't be ignored. And if you're going to go with a ground and pound back with the ability to have multiple catches, to me, it's going to be Chris Carson above Marlon Mack. Even though it's not as great an offensive situation. I don't play running backs against Baltimore. I know that MG3 has great usage in the passing game. We've seen him catch 6, 7, 8 balls. But again, Baltimore are going to hog the ball. They're not going to let the Chargers have the ball as much. He'd have to be tremendously efficient for that 7,700. To me, I think that Carson's the better play there. The Bears running backs are interesting to me, at least. Cohen, if there are multiple injuries that are going to keep players out for the Bears wide receiving core, Cohen could see a drastically increased usage in the pass game. We've seen it before with him getting 8, 7, 14 targets, 6 targets here against Green Bay. This could be one of those games where he gets a ton of looks in the passing game. And that piles up on DraftKings. You see him have monstrous games, 37 point whatever, 22, 33 here. He could potentially be a slate breaking big play threat against a team that can't guard the outside, and they can line him up in the slot. They can line him up wide. Or if he gets matched up on a linebacker and they get that mismatch, he can just run away from everybody else that's on the field. They're going to try and get Tariq Cohen involved if they're completely healthy, and he'll definitely be involved if not. I like him better for GPPs. I'm going to ride the volume with Chris Carson at 6,800 here. Try and find a running back to play later. It could be one of these guys. Howard's been outstanding for 4,600. Now, I know we typically pick on the Eagles with guys from the outside, right? We want to pick on them with pass-catching wide receivers, with backs. I know his targets aren't where we want them, but his volume has been tremendous recently. He is their goal line back. It's not going to be Cohen. And the Bears at home, favored against Philadelphia. Their defense are monsters. I'll take Jordan Howard as my hammer in this late game on Sunday where you get that flex spot and open that up for yourselves there. Defense, we're not just going to plug a 3K defense. I feel fine plugging in the Ravens defense here. You can go with the Cowboys. If you can get to the Bears. I love the Bears defense there as well. Let's plug the Ravens and see what we can do. At tight end, Zach Ertz has been a monster, and he's been a monster all season long. Can he remain that against Chicago? There are very few tight ends that can break a slate. And there's two of them, in my opinion, on this slate that could break this slate. One of them is Zach Ertz. But for $1,200 less, I can get Eric Ebron in a higher total game, in a better scoring environment, 14 touchdowns on the year, almost a touchdown a game. And a lot of those games came with Jack Doyle where he was playing way less snaps. 2 touchdown upside here. For $5,200, pairing him with Andrew Luck, getting that combo, that stack, I'm something that really obviously has paid off historically in daily fantasy is stacking your quarterback with a pass catcher. Ebron should see massive volume in this game, should see the majority of the red zone targets as well. We're going to need to find a value wide receiver, okay? Because we can plug in guys in the middle. But I think we're going to have to find somebody that's a little bit cheaper. Nelson Aguilar at 3,800, seeing consistent targets. People thought that them getting Golden Tate was going to take away from Nelson Aguilar. It obviously has not. John Brown, the Baltimore wide receivers. John Brown's GPP only, hoping for a big touchdown. It just hasn't happened with Lamar Jackson at quarterback. His targets are way down, as are every single one of the pass catchers for Baltimore. Michael Crabtree, John Brown, everybody else. Their targets are way down as opposed to Aguilar's, who are way up for similar price points. Gallup, same sort of thing. Getting good volume. I would probably rather have Aguilar there as well. Who can we plug? Who's cheap? We do have an injury to Kiki Kuti. We don't know if Kuti is going to be playing this week or not. He was inactive in week 17. If he is inactive, that brings us down to like the 3,400 range here for DeAndre Carter. Again, you're looking for a punt. You're hoping to get 9 or 10 points out of this so that you can plug in the high volume guys on the rest of the slate. This is a plug and play spot where you just plug and you play the big dogs, right? You plug this guy in so you can have access to the high salary guys. For me, I think that the best one down here is probably Nelson Aguilar, albeit against a really tough matchup. That gives us 5,600 remaining. Tyler Lockett's been outstanding on very few targets. His efficiency's been off the charts. 10 touchdowns on a season where he did not have but one game where he had above 6 targets in a game. This is where Russ's efficiency has been outstanding. Obviously, big playability out of Tyler Lockett, game-breaking speed, and he's also been utilized a little bit closer to the goal line. They do spread the ball out a little bit, but I don't hate Lockett here. Going up against Dallas, 5,900 remaining. We could go with Alshon Jeffrey here, hoping that they can get into the end zone against that Chicago Bears team. There's a couple of other routes that we can go if we want to pare down one of these guys. If we want to pare down Lockett, getting off of Jeffrey. Can we afford somebody up here? We can afford T.Y. Hilton maybe, and then that $3,400 DeAndre Carter, $3,300 DeAndre Carter, giving us 2 wide receivers to pair with Andrew Luck and hoping that game really shoots out. We have Carter in case that Kiki Kuti is out. So if you think that the Bears can score, or you think that Philly can score against the Bears, you can go with that 2 wide receiver look against the Bears to get yourself a little bit of volume or a little bit of value out there. If you want to pare down and say, you know what, I'm just going to go with the 1, and I really want to stack up on the game that's got the highest total, this is the route that I think is best. That's going to do it for this week. It's kind of an ugly slate, but this is the best we can do with it on a Monday morning. It's only about 11 a.m. for me here on the West Coast on Monday. Going to be a great slate this weekend. There's going to be showdown competitions throughout the playoffs. Make sure that you jump into the Discord so that we can get to know you guys a little bit better. Everything's down below, as well as my Twitch channel, so that you guys can come say hi. Would love to see you. Come and drop a follow there. Hit me with a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to hit that notifications bell before you leave. And I'll catch up to you guys later. Bye.